Hello, Rachel. So, Rachel is joining, but one more thing you need to do. Yeah, great of all of you to join. We need a few more minutes before we go live. So stay with us.
Hi there, Chris.
Hi, hi, Rachel. Now we have sound also, and we have picture. Wonderful. People cannot see us, but they can hear us already.
Great.
I would say same procedure as last year with
as last week or last few weeks ago.
Exactly.
So it does feel like a year has passed with these Corona times.
Yeah, it feels really like weeks. We have 3 more minutes before we go live.
Great.
We'll just check a few things to make sure that the technique works correctly, and then we are ready to go.
Great.
So we have some interesting questions came already via audio.
Okay, how many questions did you collect overall?
So I chose 3 or 4 that I will play today. Let's see how this works out, because they are the most relevant for the topic.
Okay, great.
So.
And Chris, do you think you could quickly send me that YouTube video?
Actually, you can find it yourself. If you go to YouTube and you type in my name, then you should see the live sync link. That's probably the fastest way.
Okay, perfect.
Wonderful. There's already quite a lot of people waiting for us to start. Have a little bit more patience. In 2 minutes from now on, we will start. If you want to ask us a question about the job hunt here in Germany, feel free to type it into the chat window, and I will go ahead then, and Rachel will go ahead and look through the questions that you might have, and we answer them one by one.
And I see that one of our viewers, Ali, has already asked if you can ask questions, and in the forum, you guys can go ahead and type your questions that you have, and we'll do our best to get through all of them.
Yeah, last time they are really, people started out very shyly, and then I think we could have gone on for another 2 hours if we liked it.
Probably, yeah.
So, all right, here's the chat window. I looked into the wrong one. Ali, hello. Vipan, hello. Nice to see you all. Good. Yeah. It's 5 p.m. I think I put the video on now, and then we get started. One moment.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Locals live Q&A. My name is Chris Pyak, and with me is Rachel Stern, who is kindly agreed to moderate this event today for the local.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, Rachel, I give the baton to you.
Thanks. So this is the second live Q&A that we're doing with careers expert Chris Pyak. Chris, thanks for agreeing to come back again and give your expertise to some of our readers. We'll be taking the full hour to try to answer as many of your questions as possible. And you guys can go ahead and type them into the chat, and we'll go ahead and try to address them one by one. So Chris, I don't know if you wanted to get started with the questions.
Yeah, I thought it might be interesting for our audience when I share a little update on the current situation in regards to the job market here in Germany, because there's a lot of stuff in flux. And especially this week has been quite eventful already. So that gives you some time, if you are listening to this live, watching this live in the chat, to already post your questions. Rachel has some time to already pick the first one. And I will take maybe a minute or two to give you a quick overview of what's happening right now. Let me share a PowerPoint with you. One sec. Now I have to find myself again in this system. Here I am. Bildschirm freigeben, and I wanted to share this file with you. So, a few days ago, end of March, was an evaluation by the so-called Wirtschaftsweisen, and that's a forum, a group of economists who advise the German federal government, and they made a forecast about how this crisis will affect the German economy and the job market. And quite frankly, I was positively surprised by the expectations that they put forward, because I could have imagined something way, way worse. In short, the Wirtschaftsweisen, their expectation for this year is that the economy might shrink in the worst case by 5.4%. That's a really steep decline. But if you compare it to 2008, when we had the big financial crisis, then the economy was shrinking by 5.7%, even slightly more than what is expected now. And that was something, I don't know about you, Rachel, I was quite surprised by that. I think that it could have gone way, way worse than what they expect to happen. And luckily for the next year, they then expect some recovery and that the economy will grow again. And also interesting is the forecast they make for unemployment, because the expectation here is that unemployment in Germany might raise to 5.9%. which would mean 250,000 people more unemployed out of a population of 83 million. That's also quite okay. So I have a feeling if this all happens like they expected, this is some kind of good news. What we see in the job market, I have a database that I use provided by Textkernel, a Dutch company who analyzes practically the complete German job market. And when you look at this graphic here, you see that in a typical week, there's between 27,000 new job ads for people with a university degree. The total number of job ads is way higher. It's about 2 million something. I chose jobs with a university degree and an unlimited contract, because a lot of our viewers and our listeners, they come to Germany with a job seeker visa, so they need to find jobs where that match their qualification. Don't be too confused by this low number of 380,000 jobs open right now. because many jobs nowadays, even when they are meant for professionals, they don't bother to advertise what kind of degree you need. So the total number of jobs is way higher. But what is interesting here is how Corona crisis has affected the number of new job ads. And you can see here, starting from March, the number has dropped dramatically. It's now about 40% below the median for this year. So the total number of job ads every week is about 250,000, usually in a normal year per week. In the last 3-4 weeks, this number has been shrinked to about 150,000 jobs. So every week there were 100,000 jobs less newly advertised than is usual. And my personal guess is, if we keep on the good development that we have right now, if the government will ease the quarantine starting from May 5th, step by step, more and more, I believe that from September on, we will see a huge amount of hiring to recapture all these positions that haven't been filled right now. And two last things I want to show you now. And this is the English job market in Germany. That's the job market where most of you concentrate on. And as you can see, the number of English jobs in Germany is way, way lower than the total. In total, there's about 2 million jobs online at the moment that are advertised. 71,000 of them are in English. And these are all only job ads with unlimited contracts, of course. And as you can see, it's way more variation here than in the average job market, but overall you also see that the number has declined in the same range. This week, for example, there were 3,700 new English job ads that were advertised in Germany. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share for the moment to get you started. Rachel, how does it look with questions already?
So it looks like we already have quite a few questions. So if it's okay with you, Chris, we can go ahead and get started.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we pick 3 and then I pick one from the recordings that I got.
Sure. So we have a pretty varied variety of jobs, but let's start with a really general one. You were just talking about how English language job ads are much lower at this point. And one of our viewers has asked, what is the importance of German to find a job in Germany? Do you still think that despite this low number, there's a lot of people looking for international hires right now?
Yeah. This is the most common question that I get when I do my yearly survey of expatriates. What about German language? Because obviously that's the feedback that you get from employers and also from friends. And actually the first soundbite that I wanted to play to you from listeners who have sent in their questions as audio addresses this very, very same question too. Let me just play this to you.
My name is Pratisha. My most pressing question.
Oops, let me try again. You see, we really have high tech here. Let me see, which one is it?
Hi, Chris. My name is Pratisha. My most pressing question is, in Germany, how is the job market for an HR professional? This is important for me because I want to know whether only learning the language would help me or I need to do more. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Pratisha asked the same question, German language, and the reason why I chose her question over others who asked a similar question is she is clearly an HR professional. And here come 2 aspects together that explain this very same question. When I talk to employers in Germany, both HR professionals and managers, the conversations always go the same. We can't find people anymore. We need to hire more. Did you consider hiring international? Yeah, sure. We want to hire international professionals, but a little bit of German they should speak. Well, how much German do you think would be enough? Is it A2, B1, B2? Yeah, well, maybe a little bit better. So in reality, a little bit of German usually turns out to be C1, which is native speaker level. The important thing to understand here is that this requirement is usually not based on an actual evaluation of the goals that someone is trying to achieve with the job. This is just a gut reaction. This is how we have always done it, so this is how we want to do it right now. And that's an illusion, obviously, because when you look at most jobs, not all, but most jobs, and you ask yourself, what are really the most important things that I have to do in this job to be successful, then 80% of the success comes from 1, 2, or 3 things that you have to do regularly. And for yourself, if you want to decide, can I apply for this job or not, if you feel that you can achieve the 3 most important things, or the things that make up 80% of the success in this position, while you speak English in a German environment company and you learn German on the job, then you should go and should apply for it. I can at the same time tell you that simply sending your application through HR will not get you to a job. You will have to use a different road. And I'm sure in the course of this 1 hour that we have, or 45 minutes that we have, we will have a chance to talk about what you should do instead. So if you don't speak German, you can still apply to a German language job if you can explain actually how you will achieve the desired results. But you can simply forget about simply applying for the jobs. You have to do something different that I will explain later. I don't know, can you guys hear the drilling of my neighbor here? If I seem a little bit irritated, it's because here this is the wall to my neighbor, and exactly on the other side of the wall, he is drilling with his machine there.
I guess some people use their home office to work on construction projects. I
Yeah,
have that as well in my apartment.
Yeah, or he just likes to torture me. That's
both, I suppose. And so you were talking about the application process, Chris, and we have a really interesting question from Tanmoyita, if I'm saying your name correctly. And she asked, do you think LinkedIn networking is as effective in Germany as it is in the US or India? Because no matter how structured or customized the LinkedIn messages are, the chances of getting a reply are low. And so, Chris, I know you talked before about your experiences using LinkedIn and trying to get the attention of recruiters. Maybe you have some tips for our listeners about how they can effectively use LinkedIn in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that question. Again, this shows how similar the challenges are that we all face, no matter where we come from and what kind of professions we work. Because guess what? The next soundbite that I was about to play to you also addresses this very same question. And I want to play to you, and then I will answer your questions. And I have actually some data also here to back up this information. And this question came from Anka. One moment.
Hi, Chris. My name is Anka. I read your advice about contacting hiring managers directly, and I was wondering what kind of a message would you advise to approach those relevant stakeholders with, for example, on LinkedIn. And also, since there are very few job ads in general I can apply for because of the crisis, do you see any sense in contacting CEOs or managers, even if their companies are not posting any job ads at the moment? I'm asking since I live in Berlin. I've been looking for a job for several months now, and so far this kind of traditional speculative application approach hasn't worked out for me. Thanks so much. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Anka. And thank you also, sorry, I forgot your name, who asked via YouTube. So that's a question that many people ask, how do I use LinkedIn, and which other ways are there? Reaching out to the managers is definitely a way more successful way to get a job in Germany than to go through HR, especially if you are not a standard candidate, meaning you don't speak German, your degree is not from a German university or European university that they know, you might not even live in Germany at the time. No? So the more unusual you are, and unusual can be as simple as, oh my God, you are a woman of 30 years and you just got married and probably you want children very soon. So many HR people, they will see already that as a reason to not take a chance on you. So if you are in any way unusual, then the way for you to get a job is to ignore the usual way, because that's for standard candidates and they are measured by how standard they are, how usual they are, and instead reach out to the manager. And LinkedIn is the way to go there. And also a German platform that's basically the same business model as LinkedIn, called Xing. Until very recently, maybe a year ago, Xing was way more popular in Germany than LinkedIn. By now, they are roughly the same size. They are all over 10 million users. So practically everyone who is professional in Germany, you will reach through one of the two networks. So how do you reach out to a manager in a way that they will want to communicate with you, and how effective is this? There's something that I want to show you about this as well. Wie man auf Deutsch sagt, ich habe da etwas vorbereitet. I prepared something that I want to show you now. One sec, let me again find, I'm here, that's why I should go here. Well, let me show this to you. One more second, just for one moment. This is something that I found. Can you see this? Yes, should be. You should be able to see this now. This is data provided by IAB. That's a research institute that is a part of the German government, and they research the German job market to unbelievable depths and quite regularly. And in 2015, they researched different ways how companies are looking for talent, and which of these ways actually led to a hire, which is also important. No? And it turns out that in Germany, still the majority of companies, they advertise jobs in the classical way, meaning they put ads in the newspaper, they have ads on their own homepage, and they use internet job portals and so on. And they also use headhunters, and they use recommendations by their own employees and people that they know themselves. And the interesting thing here that you can see in the lower right corner of the screen is, what are the most successful ways from the perspective of both the employee and the candidate to actually get a job? So who in the end get actually hired? And with a far ahead of everything else, personal recommendations are the #1 way how companies decide who they hire. 30% of everyone who was hired in a German company in 2015 was hired because of a personal recommendation. And very interesting is the number in the right corner. That is the success rate, because from all the people, all the candidates that have been recommended in a company, 58% got hired. No? So if you get 2 recommendations, you can be quite sure that one of them will lead to a job for you. Compared to applying through a normal internet job portal, where actually less than 1 in 3 people will get a job through that measure. And remember, this is for every kind of candidates, mostly for people who grew up here in Germany, who lived in Germany all their life. If you are different from everybody else, then this recommendation is even more important for you to get a job, because the real issue why your job hunt doesn't go ahead is that you have no one who cares about you, no? Because they don't know anything about you, so why should they care? And no one can vouch for you, there is no trust from the start, because you are simply outside of the usual scope of experience for many people. This is really stupid, I admit that, but that is the reality, and how these decision processes are made in the real world. No? So if you can build a real human connection to a manager and get into a conversation with this manager, and get him to introduce you to the hiring manager and to HR for the job interviews, that's the best way to get a job offer. So my advice in short is, yes, use LinkedIn, use Xing, which is the German equivalent, use personal conversations with the people that you meet, and use that to facilitate job interviews. What is not very successful, that was the second part of Anka's question, does it make sense to reach out to people blindly, even if they don't have jobs to offer? That's just like shooting in the dark. There's not a very high success rate for that. There are way better ways to find out if there are job offers out there that you never heard of. Maybe we come to that a little bit later, and also to the question how you can actually get the manager involved. But maybe I share that a little bit later. Let's take some more questions.
Thanks a lot for that extra presentation, Chris. I have a general question that I've seen from a few of our listeners, and that's if they can't find a job right now, if it makes sense to turn to education instead, whether online classes or going back to university to try to sit out these more difficult financial times.
Yeah, my expectation how long this will go is, I'm a bit optimistic. I think in September we will see a huge increase of hiring. The experience I made over the last 7-8 years is that once the summer holidays are over, companies hire a lot, and they hire way faster than in the rest of the year. So when before it took them 2 months to make a decision about anything, now they sometimes make a decision in 10 days or so. And the reason for that, my guess, is that managers have to defend their budget, so they want to hire as many people as they can so that they can secure the same budget for the next year. And on top of that, this year, hopefully, once the summer is over, we will have this crisis behind us, and all the jobs, all the positions that have not been hired yet, they will come additionally into this job market, and there will be even more hiring than usual in the last quarter of the year. So that's the time horizon that I would expect. What is now is April, May, Juni, July, August, 5 months that you have to somehow survive before it goes on. Yeah.
And so we have a follow-up question from Tamayita, who had originally asked about LinkedIn, and she wanted to know if in that first message, it would be okay to also send along a CV and a brief motivation letter, or if it's too much to send all of that information at once, if she should wait first until she receives a response.
Yeah, no. Finding a job is a lot like dating. You don't start by proposing marriage. You go always one step at a time, because you have to realize that the other person in this conversation, they owe you nothing. They don't know anything about you, and they don't care about you. And if you want someone to help you or to hire you, then first you need to build a human connection. You have to get them to care about you. And the best way to get anybody to care about you is to first start caring about them. So people underestimate how much effort you have to make to build this trust. So what I would do is, you need to start when you reach out in your message. You have to show respect, and then you ask for one thing in this message, in the contact request. The one thing that you ask for is, hey, let's connect. Nothing more. That's everything you ask for. Just let's connect, because then only then you can start to have a conversation with someone. In order to get the person on the other side to connect with you, you need to show some respect, and you need to show that you are transparent, that you're honest with them. You need to make clear that this is not spam, that you don't send out the same message to 100 other people. And you need to give an insight about what's in it for me. Why should I respond to you? For example, I get on LinkedIn, I get 100 contact requests every single day. Most of them don't even send a message. And as a result, I never reply to any of them. I completely ignore them. A good way how to structure such a message is this. First, when you identify the person that you want to contact, do a little research and ask yourself one question. And this question is, what do I respect about this person? In one word, what do I respect about this person? And ask yourself, why is that? And for yourself, write down what it is and why you respect this person in one sentence. And then when you reach out to this person, because in LinkedIn you have 300 signs, in Xing you have 600 signs, so you need to be very brief. You start something like, if I would write to Rachel, no, I would write to Rachel, hey Rachel, I found you through the local. I really enjoy your article about the German economy, and the way how you are able to unite professionalism with a very personal approach, like in the newsletter that you write, for example. Now, I always see this. I contact you in regard to a job at the local. I would be glad if you could connect. So what you do here is you show some respect. You show that you took some time to really get to know about Rachel. You don't send out the same message to every single one. You tell something that you honestly believe, no? Because that's something I really honestly believe. Every time I read your newsletter, I get a little bit envy, because you have a very personal way of writing, and it's at the same time personal and professional. And that's a combination, that's a balance that is not easy for everyone to achieve, you know. On my behavior, you can often see that I strike out on the professional. Then you tell her what you want. In this case, I want to talk with you about a job at the local. And what makes it interesting a little bit for Rachel to connect there is that I don't tell her which job. So she knows I'm transparent, I'm open forward with her. She knows I want to talk with her about a job, but she doesn't know which job I want to talk about. And the only way for Rachel to find out about which job I want to talk is to connect with me. Then we can have a conversation. Doesn't work every single time, doesn't need to work every single time. It just needs to work on average. But the effort you always have to make is you cannot spam people with generic messages. You have to write a personal message to every single person. And then you achieve the first step, which means they are connected with you. At that point, they haven't even started talking to you. They're just connected with you. So the next step that you have to do after that is get this person to get into a conversation with you, so that you can actually talk about the job. And if you know how people are, they are super busy. They have a million things on their mind, and you are still not a priority. So you have to be both fast while they're still interested, and interesting enough so that they will converse with you. But to explain that is really too long for this podcast or for this interview. If you want to learn that, then read my book. You'll find it on Amazon. Yeah, or book a coaching session. That would be the alternative. So
thanks a lot for that explanation, Chris, and also the kind words about our newsletter. That's the approach that we go for. And it is really true. I think a lot of recruiters or people who are hiring at a company are really flooded with emails. and it's quite easy to tell if something is just a standard or generic email that's been copied and pasted. And I know from my personal experience receiving so many emails, if somebody like you does have this very personalized email that leaves things a bit intriguing, then I'm more likely to carve out that time to write the person back to see what they're interested in. Because if you already have too many things to do, then you think, okay, why do I need to take the time to invest in this one person? So that's a really good point of how to stand out.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but in HR, for example, we actually have data how much time HR is willing to invest in actual CVs. And they invest 7 to 12 seconds. So within 3 sentences, they decide in or out. Now, do I have a closer look at the CV, or are you out of the picture? And reject is the default decision. So if you don't have a really personal approach, a respectful approach right from the start, it's over.
That's really true. And I'd imagine it also takes just double checking to see that you're writing to the right person, that there aren't any big spelling or grammatical errors. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, Chris, but a few times I've had an email written to another company or another name, and I know that that's just copy and paste right off the bat.
And in that case, you can be generous. You just forward it to the right person, you know?
Exactly. And so we have another question from Raman, if I'm saying your name the right way. And he said that he had attended a few interviews, I'm guessing over Skype or through Zoom, and that he had been rejected due to not actually being in Germany. And so I'm wondering how successful interviews can be when you're doing them from afar. I imagine that in this day and age, in Corona times, there aren't really any in-person interviews anymore, even if you're based in the same city. So what do you think about interviews from afar and doing them online versus in person?
Yeah, well, I work with a lot of bigger companies like Trivago and Zalando and so on. They do all their first interviews via phone and via Skype and Zoom, you know. It would be interesting, from whom did he get this response? Was it HR or was it the manager? In my experience, if an employer is in love with you and thinks, hey, you are the right guy, then every objection they have to hiring you, instead of saying no, they will talk with you about it. And they will say, hey, look, we really like your profile, but we are worried about all these visa issues. We have never done this. That's why we have concerns. If they simply say, yeah, sorry, we decided to go with another candidate because you are not in Germany, that was just the easiest way to get rid of you. No? So my guess would be that probably, and you can maybe tell us if that my guess is correct or not. My guess is that was probably something you got from HR, not from the hiring manager. And the real challenge here is, again, that they are not yet invested enough in you. No? People really underestimate how much effort you have to make to understand what pain the manager has and how much effort you have to make yourself valuable for the manager. Not only to get the job in the end, but to every single step beforehand even. I had a coaching session today where that was one of the challenges. That was a very successful manager in his home country with 15 years of experience, who struggled very hard to break into the German job market because he simply couldn't wrap his head around the fact that he's now in a very different environment, and his reputation doesn't reach out into the German job market. So nobody cared about him. And that you then have to take 3 steps back and really work very hard for every single step so that people first start to care about you, because then they're willing to listen to you. Then you can prove how you add value to the employer, and that leads then finally to the job. Because if they see the value that you add to them, all of these problems, they're all solvable. visa, language, moving to Germany, it can all be solved if they have the feeling you are the guy or the girl who can deliver the golden eggs, who can get them what they really, really want.
And so speaking of which, I have another question from Abhishek about CVs. And he's asking if internships and freelance are considered as good professional experience that can be included in a CV in Germany.
I would always include it. I would include the best what you have to offer. CVs in Germany anyway have to be complete. That's the first thing. That's even more important than what you actually have in content. But they have to be complete, and by complete meaning there can be no gaps. Not even a single month. When you left your last job in January and the next job is in March, we want to know what you did in February, because Germans as a whole, as a population, we deal very badly with uncertainty. When you read interviews at the moment, or when you follow Twitter on the moment, and actually I saw it in an article in the local as well, where you interviewed Germans about the crisis, the first word that came out is, "Oh, this uncertainty." No, we can deal with danger and with all kind of problems, but uncertainty is something we don't deal very well with. So take uncertainty away from us as much as possible. If you worked as a freelancer, write you worked as a freelancer and explain how your experience working as a freelancer, what you did exactly, that's relevant for this job that you apply to. If you had an internship, write what you did in the internship was relevant for this job that you apply for. If you were unemployed for some time, it's not a big problem that you were unemployed. Just let us know. Don't let us guess. No? If you write, okay, I was reevaluating my career options, we understand, okay, you were out of a job. No big deal. But if we don't know what you did, then we will feel like, oh, what was going on there? We don't know. And when we don't know, we better don't take a risk. And that's how you're out again. I say we, but actually I don't include myself there. But
you're more of a risk taker than most Germans, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I'm German, so mitgefangen, mitgehangen, as they say. So.
And so let's take another specific question, this one from Martin about the EU Blue Card, and he's asking about how feasible of a route that is to getting a job. And I'll also say that a few months ago at the local, we published a guide to applying for blue cards, which I can link to in the chat after our call. That might be helpful for some of you. But Chris,
excuse me, could you repeat that question? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, so just what do you think generally about getting a blue card of the clients and the people that you work with? Does that seem to be a feasible route of coming to Germany?
What she probably means is if you have a blue card, then you already have a job. The blue card you get when you have a university degree that's accepted as of equal value in Germany. When you have a work contract with a German company and you earn a certain minimum salary. So the blue card you get after you already got a job offer. What you probably mean is a job seeker visa. And that's a very good way to come to Germany, because it's, compared to other visas, relatively simple. And also all the requirements to later get a blue card, they are already checked, except of course that you don't have a job yet. But they already checked that your university degree is of equal value, which also gives some assurance to the employer that your education is fine. And also they have the assurance that if they hire you, you will actually be able to come here, because you will be able to get a blue card. And also having a blue card compared to other forms of visas have advantages as well. Like you can bring your family, your wife can start working immediately here in Germany. And after a relatively short period of time, after 23 months, you get an actual right to live in Germany compared to a permission, So yes, blue card is where you want to go eventually, and job seeker visa can be a good step on that. I wonder how it's like for the people. I got an email just a few days ago by someone who got a job seeker visa and was about to come to Germany, and they're all hanging now because the European borders are closed. And even when you have a visa, you will not come into the country now.
And that's also a question I've seen from a few of our readers who have job seeker visas. Is there automatic extension, as far as you know, Chris, for people who have 6 months to find a job, but maybe they're not even able to go to the foreigner's office right now to renew their job seeker visa? I'm wondering if this is an issue that has come up for you.
I have no experience. I mean, common sense would say that yes, they should. You should get an extension because this is not in your realm of influence how this goes on with the coronavirus crisis. But we don't talk about common sense here. We talk about the government. So who knows?
And so let's take a few specific questions. It seems like all of our listeners are in a really diverse range of fields. And so we've gotten some questions about specific jobs. And Bishesh, if I'm saying your name the right way, has asked about English-speaking hospitality management jobs. And I know, unfortunately, there's not so much of a hospitality business at the moment in Germany. What do you think about fields where now they've really taken a hit? Is it still possible to look towards the future, like this fall, and begin applying?
Yeah, I think so. Especially in industries like hospitality, because these are the areas where is the biggest shortage of skilled labor in Germany. And one of the reasons is, of course, is because they pay so badly. No? So not so many people want to work in these fields, and they really have trouble finding enough candidates. That's why, and this will not go away because the fundamentals don't change. Just because of this crisis, the fundamental situation will not change. And yes, it makes sense to apply. Same also for jobs like software developers and so on. You know. What I hope is that this crisis will open the minds of more German employers to what is possible. If you think just 4 weeks ago, you know, if you would have told many German employers, hey, can I work in home office? They would have said, absolutely not. It's not possible. No? Now everybody does it. And once you start doing new stuff, it's easier to do more new stuff. No? That's the same, again, what I said before about LinkedIn. You know, you only ask for one favor at a time. But once you have the first favor, it's easier for the other person to make the second favor, the third favor, and so on. And the same is true with new things. So hopefully more German employers will think that, hey, this works quite well in home office, and maybe we can try other things also that are different and new.
Yeah, and on that note, we've also gotten a few questions about consulting jobs and if those are likely to be available. I know a lot of consulting jobs in Germany have this structure where somebody travels somewhere for 4 days and then they're back in whatever their home city is. So how do you think that those are affected by the current crisis?
Yeah, the main problem with consulting jobs is that the consulting companies all ask for candidates who speak C1 level German. Their argument is that they say, yeah, our clients are German Mittelstand, and they don't speak English, which is an insult to their client because half of German Mittelstand lives from export. They all speak English, but you can't get this idea out of their head. And it's relatively futile to discuss with them about it. What I would do if I would be in that situation is what I did exactly in reality, which is either you start your own company and specialize in a field where you have unique insight that you can offer, and then find the first client and then the second and the third and go your own way. Or you start by looking for, firstly, for internal roles where you would not communicate with outside clients so much, but do something inside an organization. That would be the two roads that would be available. Personally, I would probably go as a freelancer with my own consulting company. The funny thing is that the same employers who absolutely will not hire someone who doesn't speak German as an employee will sometimes pay top money to have a fancy international advisor, who works freelance for them. It's not always rational how these decisions are made.
And if somebody does go the route of trying to start their own company or to work as a freelance consultant, what would be the first step there? Because I imagine that a lot of German bureaucracy, as with almost everything in the job world here, would be involved.
Yeah, don't do it in Germany. You can work for clients in Germany, but we live in the European Union. You have 27 countries to choose from. My personal advice, because I lived there for a long time and I know how awesome it works, is Estonia. Create a so-called Osaüing, that's LTD. In Estonia, you can do this within a few days, cost you 800 euros, and start offering your services from there. You have a company in the European Union, you can sell your services all over the European Union. And I have a company in Estonia and one here in Germany. For the German company, I finished my taxes about 3-4 weeks ago for last year. In the Estonian company, I finished them after 5 days. So I think on 2nd of January, I started to put all the documents together. On 7th of January, everything was done. And the beauty is in Estonia, because they understand they're a very tiny country, you can do everything online without ever going there, and you can do everything in English.
I guess that's why they're called Estonia.
Exactly.
Pun intended there.
Yeah.
And also, Estonia also happens to have a flat tax rate, as far as I understand.
Yeah. It's awesome. If you, as long as your company doesn't pay out any dividends, you don't pay any taxes. And when you do, you pay 20% tax, flat tax. And Taavi Rõivas, back then he was the Prime Minister of Estonia. I know him, I've met him several times. He was in the US in the Daily Show. And they asked him, hey, is it true that you can make your tax declaration in 5 minutes in Estonia? And he said, no, that's not true, because we upgraded the system. It takes now only 3 minutes.
Even better.
Yeah. I know this is a geek issue and it leads us away from what we want to talk, but just to understand how awesome Estonia is. I got a child 8 months ago. So my wife did. I outsourced that. And I went through all the trouble to register my child, get Elterngeld, Kindergeld, tralala, tralala, tralala. In Estonia, when your child is born, the government scans what you are eligible of, what kind of help you can get, pre-fills all the documents, sends them to you, and the only thing you have to do is to check if everything correct, and then you say, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Germany has some things that it could learn from Estonia.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the check by the Estonian government, by the way. Good. For the end.
Chris, let's go ahead with a couple more specific job questions. There's one from Elton about the need for architects in Germany. Mm-hmm. Do you know so much about the architecture field here, and if there are possibilities for people who do not speak fluent German?
Yeah, I don't. I will be honest. I don't know everything. I could check in our database how big the demand is, how's the relation between German and English jobs. Without any closer data, I could just guess, and that won't help you.
That makes sense. And if any of you who are listening have specific questions about your field or a specific role that you've applied for, we might not be able to answer your questions on the spot, but we'll do our best to provide written answers later after we've been able to check. So if you have a really specific question about a certain field, feel free to ask that. Sure.
Please understand that same rules apply that I talked about LinkedIn before. If you contact me, for example, on LinkedIn, make sure to write a message. I will not connect with you because I really get a huge amount of requests every day, but I will answer you. And it will be a short answer, but it will be a real answer, and I really read what you write and you get a real answer from me as well.
And one question I've seen now from a few of our listeners is about the letter of recommendation. You were talking earlier, Chris, about just how much weight this personal connection carries in Germany and how that's actually the most popular way for somebody to get a job, having somebody that they know or who they've worked with put in a good word for them. So what value does a recommendation letter have, and what makes a good recommendation letter? Is it just a couple paragraphs that really get to the point, or are very detailed, flowery recommendation letters preferable? What have you seen being the most successful?
So over the course of the last 7 years, I have seen a few thousand recommendation letters, so the cover letter. And nearly all of them are identical. They start with, hello, my name is, I have this kind of profession, this many years of experience, blah, 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 blah. I stopped reading already after the second sentence. And so do most HR people, because all the information that was presented there, you find in the CV. You don't need the cover letter for that. There's one purpose for the cover letter, and that is the cover letter is not about you. The cover letter is about the employer and how good you understand the pain of the employer and what you can specifically offer to help them. If you want to write a cover letter that really catches the employer's attention, it needs only 3 paragraphs. First paragraph is, hey, we talked on the phone. You said the biggest challenge for this position is because of that. Second paragraph, this is how I helped someone else to solve a similar problem, where you share a real professional experience. And it has to be a real experience, because people catch on to bullshit really, really fast. And the last paragraph is, let's talk about it, meaning I would be glad if you could discuss this in a personal interview. First paragraph, this is your problem, as you told me, and why it was important. Second paragraph is, this is how I helped someone else to solve a similar problem. And third paragraph, let's talk about this. Which, of course, brings us to the question, how do you know what the actual pain is? Because believe me, it's not what is written in the job description.
And so when somebody applies for a job in Germany, they often wait a while before they hear from the company. And I've had a couple comments here in the chat about if it's the norm in Germany to wait several months before getting a reply from the recruiter, if somebody can still be in the chase, so to speak. I know from hearing friends' experiences that they've given up hope after 8 months, and then suddenly the company says, oh, we'd like to hire you. Is this a common phenomenon in Germany?
No, sure, he will call, you know. It can really take a lot of time, and I'm surprised by that again and again. Even after they already decided to hire you, it can sometimes take 2 months before they finalize all the documents. You know, because 5 people have to sign, and one of them is on holiday, then the other one is on a meeting, and it takes forever. If it's 8 months, you will not hear from these people anymore. That's a fact, you know. The real problem behind all of these different questions that we have is that in most cases, the candidate failed to discover the biggest pain of the employer and to address how she or he can help to solve this pain. And that's not your fault if you are the candidate, because all you have to go on from the start is the job description. And the job description has, if you ever went to a job interview, you know how little overlap is between a job description and the actual job. That's why my advice always is, you know, reach out to the actual manager. Try to get him on the phone so that you can build a personal relationship, and then ask the manager about the things she or he really wants to achieve and why they are important. And then when you have this information, then you can do all the other things, like write a cover letter that's really specifically addressing this person's problems and how you can help. And then the interest is there from the other side to actually engage with you. Like your problem, for example, is not to find a job in general. If you would be in your home country or in other countries where you lived, you would probably get job offers, because I know from many years how well educated most of you are. No? So your problem is not to find a job in general. Your problem is to find a job here in Germany. And the exact obstacle that you are hitting is that most of the time you communicate with people who actually are way less professional than you are. No? Because you talk to the job that you want to do about people who know nothing about your job and who also don't care because their own job doesn't depend upon. I'm talking about human resources here. There are always some human resources people watching. I apologize. I know there are really good HR people out there who really take an interest, but the vast majority, they have 30, 40 positions to fill. They know nothing about the actual jobs. And they evaluate you like a referee at a soccer game who doesn't know that the whole point of soccer is to score goals.
And so, Chris, I see that we have 5 minutes left in taking the very German punctual approach. Let's take one more question. And this is also a general one about CVs, if they should be written in German, in the German style, or if it's okay to have a English CV. And that also goes for cover letters. Should you have your your cover letter translated into German, or is it okay to send that in English?
One of my earliest coaching clients that I had many years back was a professional from Canada. And she used an approach that turned out to be quite useful. The CV, she had always prepared both in English and in German, so that it's easy to evaluate for the HR person. And the cover letter was in English. So that way, the employer could understand, okay, this is an English-speaking person, but at the same time, it was quite easy to evaluate her the facts because the CV was in German. If you translate it in German, make sure that it's really correct, because there's really a lot of HR people who will reject you because there's a comma missing or there's something misspelled. And they do this because they don't know anything about the actual job, so they have to find some other criteria to evaluate you by.
And I'd imagine it's also important to be accurate about your level of German. If you say you're C1 and then they want to do part of the interview in German and you're really A1, I'd imagine that wouldn't go so well.
Yeah, your German level and also your other skills. There is an observation that I hear from HR people over and over, especially those who recruit for bigger companies, IT people, software developers. They often complain that, since software developers are really good at understanding software, they play the evaluation software. So they put in all the keywords they can imagine so that they rank really, really high when the CV comes to the actual HR person. The problem with that approach is that in the end, there is a real person looking at your CV. And because you say you can do everything, they don't understand what you can do actually. And that, again, gets you rejected. So everything you write in your CV must be true. Actually, as a matter of fact, that's illegal in Germany. You cannot lie on your CV. If they discover that you lied on your CV, they can fire you. But that shouldn't be the reason why you write it.
Exactly. So being very specific so that your real skills stand out, because also I'd imagine if you're quite good at something and you're quite good at a few things, then it's better just to put those than a long list.
Yeah, and again, it's important not to guess. Know what they really care about. Ask them before you apply. If you can't reach the hiring manager, which is the perfect solution, at least call HR and listen carefully to what they say, and then use the answer to write your job application. In your CV, you should always edit. You have your standard CV, of course, but you should edit every time when you have an experience that's relevant for this position. Of course, you make it a little bit bigger and you explain a little bit more how it relates. And the things that are not so relevant for your disposition or that might be leading away from that position, you don't write so much about that, or you take maybe even parts out. You have to have the job in there, of course, when you did the job, but you don't need to write a long explanation if it's not relevant for the position. No. Always try to optimize for the concrete position that you apply for.
Thanks a lot for that explanation, Chris, and also for taking this past hour to answer as many of our questions as possible. We haven't been able to get to everybody's, especially for specific fields, but we will try later to be able to address those. As Chris mentioned, if you send him a personalized message that stands out in the format that he's just talked about, then he'll also do his best to get that specific information to you. So Chris, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add or to close with right now.
Yeah, same here. You know, I still have quite a number of calls that I wanted to share with you. I will not play it to you, but I just want to mention it. Punya from Hamburg wrote me that she applied to a few dozens of positions, and she always gets rejected, and she can't figure out what's wrong with her. And I know that this is a feeling that many of you have, that you think something's wrong with you because only and only you get rejection. I just want to stress there's nothing wrong with you. The problem is not that you have some kind of flaw or so. The problem is that the application process in Germany is optimized for the standard person, the typical person, the isonorm person. And if you are in any way different, then the standard process is not for you and you have to find a different road. The real challenge is not that something would be wrong with you. The real challenge is that you are evaluated by people who don't understand the job typically. And because they don't understand the job, they evaluate you by how well do you fit into my set of expectations. So my advice for you, first of all, trust in yourself, find the managers behind the job offer, talk with them about their needs, and then offer a solution based on your experience for this concrete challenge that they have for this position. So, good.
Great. Well, thank you to Chris, and thank you to everybody who is here with us for a little bit over an hour now. We really appreciate you taking the time, Chris, and also you guys being here today. And we wish you luck with all of your various job searches in Germany.
Yeah, I wish you success. Till the next time. Bye-bye.
Till then.